let's take a look at what's making headlines tomorrow. We'll start with Sydney's Daily Telegraph, which states the obvious: hip pocket pain hits home under Labor. Recession of the people reads the headline. And the article says Australians are thousands of dollars worse off under the Albanese government, as experts say the country is now mired in a recession of the people. The latest national account data, which was out today in tomorrow's paper, it'll say yesterday, revealed economic growth has slowed to its lowest annual rate in more than 30 years. That's outside of the pandemic, as government spending and high levels of migration mask the true damage to household budgets. The article goes on to say that government spending is now 28% of GDP. That's compared to an average of about 22% in the 10 years leading up to the pandemic. That sort of spending is just absolutely unsustainable. But not only that, it risks keeping inflation high. So interest rates stay high. It doesn't matter which way you look at this, everybody is hurting, and the government don't seem to know what to do other than just keep pumping money into the economy.
Even though they are the sole cause of the problem. As Milton Friedman famously said, inflation is created in Washington. It's completely done by government spending. And he also goes on to say that that's our fault. Because how many of us love a freebie from the government? So every time the government's coming up for re-election, what does it promise? More spending, more spending, more spending. You only have to take a look at a few of the things Labor's already saying that they're taking to the next election, like universal daycare, which is going to cost us billions of dollars. This is what they do. They come up with new ways of saying freebies for everyone, and then people vote for the freebies just once, especially now. I'd love to see a party with the gonads to say, actually, we are running on a very fiscal agenda. We're actually going to be like, hey, Australia, want to tighten your belt so that your children's children aren't paying off this ridiculous debt? Because I think a lot of responsible Australians would say, yeah, actually, let's get it done, instead of everyone being promised a pony and a pony for their pony, and everyone then voting for whichever party they think is going to give them the most freebie.
I wish that were true, but Campbell Newman got into government and then did that in Queensland, slashed the public service, and he was out on his
won in a landslide and then lost in a landslide.
Real quick time.
But, you know, for the days of Paul Keating, who once upon a time said we were going to have the recession we had to have, he was at least upfront about the fact.
That's true.
Yes. I think Campbell Newman, by the way, is a very unique situation. I mean, Queensland has been a Labor state for a very long time. That was an exceptional election, and I don't think anyone was surprised. And that was not the number one, that wasn't the reason why he was voted out.
But at least Keating was honest about the fact that he was about to lead the country into recession. What Albanese and Chalmers have done here is preside over the longest household recession in half a century. Your money is going backwards, the household GDP is going backwards, but covering up the official numbers at a national level by pumping up the migration. And as Paul Murray was explaining at the top of his program, employing more and more public servants and giving them pay rises, because that makes it look like there is marginal economic growth, which there actually isn't. I also want to just note, if we can get the front of the Daily Telegraph back up again. Who's this bird in the top left of the paper who's giving me the finger? She's a good-looking lass, but I'm not quite sure. It says that she's a superstar on a Sydney set, I'm assuming for a film or something. But what's she doing giving me the finger on the front of the paper? I don't know what that's all about.
Don't know, don't care. To the front page of the Herald Sun, mortgage stretcher. If this doesn't make your guts groan, I don't know what will. The 40-year mortgage has arrived. In a move other major lenders are expected to follow, Pepper Money is launching a mortgage next week that will run out to December 2065. Borrowers would pay less each month, but the loans are dearer in the long term. Yeah, go figure. I don't even want to think about this. I don't know if I even want to be alive in 2065 to think about paying... how quickly people used to be able to buy a house back in the day, get it done in a couple of decades, if that, we're now talking about 40-year mortgages because they're so expensive, you're going to need 40 years or maybe even more to pay off even a one-bedder apartment if you're looking at central suburbs in Sydney. And that's for a hole in the wall. That's nothing fancy.
Is it in Japan where they have mortgages now that are generational, so it gets handed on to your kids, and which has a certain attraction, actually, Caleb?
Well, I'm sure it does, but I mean the greatest thing about debt has always been that it is extinguished upon death. The creditor can come and take assets to recover as much of their money as possible, but you can't actually pass debt on to children. Imagine if that were the case. You know, you could go out and take out a massive mortgage about 5 minutes before you cark it.
And your son's going to pay it off.
You're like, you know, before I die, I really want to have a Ferrari and a mansion. And then your kid's like, Dad, what did you do to us?
I've got two of them. I'll get two cars. It's interesting, over the last couple of years, 430,000 Australians have extended the life of their mortgages. So clearly when people are struggling with repayments, even though you're worse off in the long run, it's going to be attractive to people.
And that's the thing, right? Like, it's sad, but what else are people meant to do? If you want to buy in the market that currently exists, you haven't got a lot of room to move and you don't have much choice. So if this allows you to get into the market, you'd say, OK, that's great. But, of course, that also then has the effect of allowing more people into the housing market, which, when you have an already stretched housing market, means the prices go up even further. So you really can't win here, can you? But you said you don't want to be alive in 2065, which is a sad thought, Liz. But I can't remember who sang the song, but, you know, it goes, in the year 2525, if man is still alive, if woman can survive, you may find... And then it goes on all these futuristic things.
Tim Flannery, wasn't it?
It goes on all these futuristic things that were supposedly going to happen. So I occasionally go back and listen to it because it goes on about, you know, 2020 and all this stuff. And it's like, wow, that's not actually what the world turned out like. It's a bit like watching Back to the Future. They went forward to, was it 2016 or 2015 they went to? And they were all getting around on hoverboards and stuff. And it's like, that didn't happen, did it?